Welcome back to ComicBook Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw. With me today are my co-hosts, Matthew Aguilar and Janelle Wheeler. And joining us once again is Mr. Evan Valentine. And Evan's here as an ambassador of the spooky season, the old Halloween season, and where we're trying to give a little bit more coverage to these horror movies that are hitting theaters. There's a lot of either big budget horror movies like the French film sequel Smile, which will be coming down the pike in a week or so, and even indie horror things, which is what Mr. Evan Valentine is here to talk about today, because he did what few on the comic book staff were willing to do with their own souls and eyes, and he went out and he saw Terrifier 3. Yes, the famous breakout indie horror hit Terrifier is releasing its highly anticipated third film. This is the one where they got some money behind it, a little bit more production value. Damien Leone worked his way up from the lowest of the lows, and over the course of these Terrifier films, when did this begin? Well, when was the original Terrifier? Terrifier 2 was 2022. And I think did this come out of
and I think Terrifier
2016. 1 was... Wow. 2016.
Yeah.
Is where Terrifier 1. That was so long ago. But anyway, we're here for the third one. Evan, take it away. I keep telling people we had to have a serious editorial meeting about how to even cover this movie. Which
it's and I'll preface this by saying for those of you in our audience who are wondering, if I were to describe some of the death scenes in this, like without any obscenities or anything like that, I legitimately think I would be put on a federal watch list. Even if I were to just say it like normally, like it would just that's how unbelievably, I think every single death scene in this is one that I have. They're showing art right now in the infamous shower scene. Every single death scene in this is a death scene that I don't think I've ever seen play out in any other horror movie ever. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of what the Terrifier series is, Kofi did an excellent job of saying kind of what the director had done previously with Terrifier 1 and 2. Art the Clown first appeared in a short film that was known as The Ninth Circle, then making an appearance in the anthology film known as All Hallows Eve, at which point Art, who is played by David Howard Thornton, would become one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the greatest slasher villains of all time. There is something to be said for Howard Thornton's performance as Art, in terms of being able to, the way that I describe Art the Clown is that he's like if Jason Voorhees and Pennywise had a baby. He never has any dialogue, but the way that his personality, like you saw it just there, the way that he is able to have this horrifying glee and happiness in what he is doing throughout the entirety of the movie has to be seen to be believed. And I say this as a horror fan. If you liked the first two Terrifiers, this will be right up your alley. This is somehow amazingly more horrific than the first two, even though the fact that Terrifier 2 was, no lie, 3 hours long. This one is 2 hours long. And it's still somehow more horrific. And I've been talking with a lot of people about this. And one thing that that I find so funny is the fact that Art the Clown has kind of become the unofficial mascot of Halloween this year. He is everywhere in Spirit Halloweens across the country. And I think that there are going to be a lot of children who want to see the Scary Clown movie from Spirit Halloween. Parents, please do not take your kids to see this movie. I cannot stress that enough. Does anyone have any questions about Terrifier 3 in terms of things that happen or scary things that happen?
I was going to say why, but the answer is Halloween. So it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like legitimately, there is a there's a ghoulish glee to be had in watching Art the Clown do his business. I think that like really Art is such a unique horror movie villain. It's so funny how Fire Grilled in the comments kind of mentions the Evil Dead movies, and I think that that's kind of a good comparison to this. When you watch the Terrifier movies, the death scenes, the best way to describe them is like it's X-rated Looney Tunes. There are scenes in this that are so grotesque and so unbelievable that you feel like you're watching just like, well, what if Bugs Bunny went to the extreme in taking out Elmer Fudd? That's kind of what it is. It's really like, it's so hard to talk about this movie sometimes because like I'm thinking about all the death scenes and it's so I'll say this. At one point, in order for Art to get his Santa Claus outfit, he jerry rigs a fire extinguisher to shoot out liquid nitrogen. And that's all I'll say about it. Just think about that. Just think about the implications.
Yeah, I just got one question. I mean, the Christmas setting, like, is there any like deeper subtext, or is it just wanting to make mayhem at Christmas just to mess with all of us?
Well, it does give us Art the Clown in a Santa Claus outfit. One of the things that has in the first two Terrifier movies, they haven't really done a lot in terms of breaking down Art the Clown's origin story. They don't tell you who he was before he put on that terrifying outfit. They don't really say why he's doing what he's doing. In Terrifier 3, without going into deep spoiler territory, don't expect to learn like what Art's real name is, but you will learn more about Art's supernatural origins. You will learn like why he was able to return from the dead after part 1. I will say it without going into spoiler territory as to why he was able to do that. You'll kind of learn like, okay, this is the reason why. There's honestly for those out there, it's so weird to say, but for those out there, like it starts getting into Hellraiser territory at one point in the most ridiculous ways, like in terms of the lore of Terrifier. And there it was right there. They as Kofi said, the first two movies had smaller budgets. This one's budget, I think, was like $2 million versus Terrifier 2's, which I think was like $500,000. And then the first movie was actually
not even
for like $35,000, which is just crazy. No, yeah, not even that. It's just
second
crazy.
Movie was $250,000. You weren't. It was $250,000. Yeah.
Oh, was it $250,000? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So I recommend it's tough to say like, oh, go see Terrifier 3 for quote unquote normal people. I would say no. If you're a fan. If you're a fan of like grindhouse movies, if you're a fan of, if you can handle, I was actually talking with a buddy of mine, and I said if you want to like, because he also saw Art the Clown and like Spirit Halloweens, and he's like, okay, how bad do these movies get? And I'm just like, if you think you can handle it, if you think that you can handle Art the Clown, what I recommend you do is that you just type into YouTube, you type in Terrifier 2 bedroom scene, and if you can handle that. If you can handle that scene, you will be able to handle Terrifier 3. But it's a lot, man. I found myself at least a dozen times in this movie. And I'm saying this as someone who has seen so many horror movies, and I'm very desensitized to a lot of the blood and gore that like is in horror in general. I think like at a point I'm just like, okay, that's kind of funny. The shower scene specifically, I can't even say what Art does with a chainsaw. That's how
chainsaws. I mean, chainsaws and showers. Like, I mean, there's a proud tradition from Scarface till now where you start mixing chainsaws and showers, and it's just gonna scar you for life. There's just something about it.
Yeah,
just one of that je ne sais quoi, chainsaws and showers. But yes, to answer Mr. Folgers in the live chat, because this is the live show. Yes, Chris Jericho is in this movie. He
That's
plays
right, he
an
is.
orderly, yes, named Burke.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's there's a couple people in this movie.
Without saying any spoilers, poor Chris Jericho, man. Oh boy, poor Chris Jericho. Boy, does he
Because he's been in all of them,
he
right?
tries his best. He was in part 2, and he actually played his role for our wrestling fans out there. Chris Jericho plays an orderly at an insane asylum for Chris Jericho plays an orderly at the insane asylum where Art the Clown's first victim resides. Art the Clown at the end of Terrifier 1 ate the face of the final girl. I'm like, and she survives.
I like Matt's face.
I couldn't make this up. I think that like it's so ridiculous.
Wait, she becomes a what?
Like, she becomes a oh god, I'm just thinking of the things she does in this movie. She becomes what is effectively a she becomes a faceless slasher villain, I think is the best way to say it. She at the end of the it's really tough to, at the end of the second movie, Vicky, who is the final girl of the first movie who has her face eaten by Art the Clown, is possessed by a demonic entity known as the Pale Girl, who helps Art in his bloody reign of terror in part 3.
This is nuts.
She does some oh dude, oh man, I'm not even scratching the surface of this.
Man.
I'm barely.
Wow. Okay. I'm beginning to get it though now, at least. Yeah, I get why people. This is like such a thing for people. Like, yeah, there's some crazy amount of mythos to this, apparently.
There is a lot of lore to Art the Clown, what he's doing, and again, like, when there are all of. I want to say believe the hype when it comes to people I think when horror movies release a lot of things that are like, oh, people are fainting in the audience. People are like, yeah, sure. For this, yes, I totally see it. People are fainting in the audience for good reason at multiple times in this movie. The first opening scene is woo.
I heard, it said
later
several crew members vomited making this, like during the vomiting.
Yeah, I can believe it.
All right, we can drop the trailer. We
yeah.
should probably stop showing this shower scene before people start thinking we're a different kind of podcast here. Thank you. All right, yeah, stop doing that.
I mean, 20 minutes on this movie is an interesting podcast already.
No, I mean, are you kidding me? We could do a whole bonus episode. This thing is like, as people are saying in the comments, like, this is a big deal. Like, this is the poster child for indie horror right now, as like the indie horror breakout hit. And going to extreme seems to be the calling card of what this is all about. But that's why we outsourced it to a person like Evan. Otherwise, we'd be going for those clicks. We'd be doing an entire Terrifier series explained kind of podcast. You two built for that? You built for a Terrifier explained podcast?
I would not.
What's that? You would not? See?
I'm good on that. No thanks.
And this is why
it's like
I kind of
make Matt watch
and this
it.
is why we're never
see
getting
it.
that Webby award, because we don't want to go to the extreme lengths
I
necessary.
want to see. What's that, Matt?
No, go ahead. What are you, dead air? What are you, go ahead?
The extreme stuff kind of makes me want to, like, because it does, it takes itself seriously because stuff is gory and bloody and stuff and horrific, but because it's so outlandish in how it approaches it, it does, like, that is kind of some of the stuff I can almost jump into, because like the actual gore and blood of a horror movie is not actually what bothers me. It's typically like the really creepy tension, and especially once you start messing with, like, spirits and stuff, like, and you're taking it super seriously, that freaks me out. right? Because I get real tense and I can't handle it. Or like the stuff we talked about with Alien, right? Like the super like body morphing stuff and the gross legs, that stuff I can't handle. But when it's like over the top, a dude dressed as a clown with a chainsaw, it's like, kind of like the sense of like I can suspend disbelief and stuff, and then just go into it and be like, this is bonkers and stupid, and I can kind of have fun with it. So I'm not gonna lie, this segment has actually kind of made me want to go watch the first one, see if I can even handle the sequel or the third one. I don't know, but I kind of want to watch the first one now.
I'm weirdly the opposite. I watch a ton of horror, but I like more outlandish, like supernatural stuff. The only thing I don't like, and this is why I never got into Eli Roth or Hostel or never will watch that stuff, is I didn't like torture porn. Is I don't like human suffering and mess. Like I don't like to see grisly mess, and I don't like to see human suffering. Like sadistic. Like now, you give me a killer who's efficient in their work. Like I can watch serial killer movies all day. I mean, if they got a good couple syringes and a good plan and a hacksaw, like I'm good. I'm good with that. If they're like. That's kind of scary. Like I like if you've ever seen the series Luther with Idris Elba, like that's one of the better. Like has crazy serial killer guys that he's hunting and that do crazy stuff. Hannibal, that type of stuff. Like I'm fascinated by that. Like the crazy psychosis of humans is like interesting to me. But like the gore fest, the mess. I'm not all about that. And like. Especially when they're good at really sadistically, like just making you feel something really grisly that makes you twitch all over. Like the shower scene is me going, like making me do like funny hands all over my legs and stuff. Like, I don't want to think about my bits and pieces. Like, and I know that's going to leave me scarred. Like, and I don't need that. I don't need that.
Hey, if you want syringes, you can just watch AEW. You just watch a Strickland match. You'd be good.
Wow!
Syringe to the mouth.
Wow! Catching strays over here. Like,
what?
Wow! Yeah. That really happened?
Yeah.
I don't even know what reality is anymore.
That was
you guys is this Are we still talking Terrifier, or is this real life now? Oh my god!
That was at a pay-per-view. He
so are we still allowed to call this
the mouth during a match?
Are we still allowed to call this extreme anymore? Then is this just now life? Syringes and mouths.
And a dude landed on a
normal.
Pish posh.
Oh no.
Yeah. All right. Whatever. Okay.
I will say, like, Kofi, you bring up like the Eli Roth and Hostel stuff. And I see in the comments, just to divert really quickly, Ice Cold Trey says, can you stream the first two on any service?
That's Rich.
Yeah, it's Rich.
It's Rich. Oh, hey, Rich. Rich. Oh, I didn't realize that. Hi, Rich. Yeah, you can watch
Rich's
Terrifier
burner
1 and 2.
account.
It's literally, it's literally on everything. It's kind of crazy. Terrifier 1 and 2 is on like every streaming service practically. Kofi, you did mention like Eli Roth torture porn, as it were. And again, this doesn't. In Terrifier 2, in one scene, Art does a horrible thing to a victim for a good 5 minutes. And in the bedroom scene, the infamous bedroom scene in Terrifier 2, he leaves and he returns with salt and bleach. And that's a thing that really happens in the movie. And without necessarily going into anything else, but it's like Matt said, it's so over the top. It's so ridiculous that it's just like, okay, like it's kind of getting to the point. It's X-rated Looney Tunes, as I said before. It's if you can take it, it's like it's quite ridiculous.
All right. Well, there you go. Terrified. I mean, it is Halloween season. There's a lot of you freaks out there. You love some good, crazy stuff at Halloween season. I say, hey, I don't shame. Go get your Terrifier on. Pack the theater. This would be fun. If I was in high school, this would be great to go with my friends and see which one of us could sit there and stay. And how many of us would, pick a place afterwards. We'll meet you there afterwards if you gotta bounce. And let's see who can make it. Yeah, Dare watches. I like that. All right. I had a lovely evening in Nashville sitting outside at the amphitheater in Bicentennial watching Inception last night. And it was very relaxing. So that I didn't have to deal with any of this, and I'm glad. My mind is a palace. This mind is
I
a
didn't see
palace, and I'm keeping
any
it that
of
way.
it.
This
Yeah,
is what
no.
they're showing next week. Movie at the park, Terrifier 3.
That'd be
Oh,
insane.
Oh man,
That would be insane.
there's
Could you
there's a
imagine
really
bystanders
great-
just like walking by, being like, yeah, that'd be great.
there's a
right.
really great viral video that is going viral from Terrifier 3, which is just an audience watching the movie and you only hear the sounds and you see their reactions. And that's like the perfect kind of just way to sell this movie. And it's oh man.
Yeah, I would love to see a picture of
it's a
a
lot.
row of audience just like from the knees down and just see like people's legs like you know, jump. You can hear the sound effects when they're like seeing crazy stuff. But I think you get sued for that today. So let's just let's move on. Evan, we got to get you out. There's a big day coming. We're gonna have something big from the anime section next week for new Dragon Ball anime coming our way.
Mhm.
So we'll see you again soon. But thanks for doing that to yourself for this site. We appreciate you. You're on Firefest levels here of
Yes.
service for the
I'm
company
forever
here.
changed.
Oh boy! All right,
I'm happy,
so
I'm happy
Terrifier
to
3.
do it for the site.
Oh my god.
Terrifier 3's out, and if we've done anything
Thanks,
today, we
y'all.
may have gotten a few more dollars for the Terrifier franchise. So you're welcome. All right, thanks, Evan.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks, everybody.
All right, Janelle.
Yeah,
take us to
hopping on
something
over.
equally as spooky.
Oh, totally. Yeah. This is definitely
Ag-
just as scary. Let me tell you. Just kidding. Guys, Agatha All Along, episode 5, coming in hot, trying to redeem itself and get us hyped about this show. Although there was a leak with the toys, so unfortunately, a lot of people already knew what was coming. I'm one of the people that did not know what was coming. So I actually got to have a very excited moment. In this episode, obviously there was a lot of like Easter eggs and things. And if you really want to like go down the rabbit hole, you can find them. Like I heard people talking about the number 3 of the jersey she's wearing and things like that. But the obvious big thing was that, spoilers ahead, by the way, is that the dude that we've kind of been following along this whole time is in fact Wiccan, who is who is Wanda's son. I've heard that this is a reincarnation of him, and that, you know, I don't know what's going to happen from here on forward. I don't know like what his intentions are, but obviously I would expect that he's holding some sort of grudge towards Wanda. The cool thing about this, the thing that was like really epic, is that during this the challenge scene in the house, they all kind of were transported into kind of a Stranger Things vibe, and he is straight up wearing like a Wiccan costume, if you've noticed that. So I thought that was really cool, because we also had a moment like that in WandaVision where Wanda was wearing kind of a homemade of her costume on Halloween. So that I will say, like, I think this was a great episode. Is it too little too late for me? Maybe. Where are we going from here? I don't quite know. But, you know, if we do get Wiccan out of it, I do love this actor and I like the way that he's being played. And I'm excited to see him going forward in the MCU if they do continue to keep him in. For any projects ahead. What did you guys think of this episode?
I mean, I think I'm good with Agatha. I don't think there's any problems here. I think this is always week to week, like a nice, pleasant watch. Like I think Jack Schaefer does a great job of sprinkling out the right amount of interaction and kind of chemistry, ensemble chemistry with enough mystery and little spooky moments to kind of keep you going. Yeah, I think people are clowning. You guys are hard in the comments. Shout out to my brother, GK. What's up? Yeah, you guys are hard in the comments on this show. And yeah, it was always going to be, we knew it was Billy. It was Wiccan, right? I don't think that's not the hook for me. It's not the who, it's the how is really the question here, is how are we getting an older Billy a Billy who's clearly mastered magic and, has his mother's crown on and all of that. And what's the story there? Does that in any way tie into the multiverse saga, making this show more relevant in a way we didn't expect? Like, there's a lot of that could still be coming our way that could really kind of flip things around and make this show, like I said, relevant in a way we didn't expect to tie in. And that would be interesting to me. So I think, but week to week, I think, again, it's the ensemble chemistry. And when we lost somebody in this episode, I was like, oh, like I was actually like, I didn't want to believe that it was going to really end in another death. I was like, no, they got this. They got this. And when they don't got that, I was like, oh, and I was kind of bummed to be losing, a member of the ensemble. So they've done a good job with that. And like, yeah, it's done a good job. And I think there are different levels of fans. So I think the MCU is back at a point where there are so many fans who are not checking into the MCU as a hard, like every set photo and everything, which is good in a way. I think we need to go back to more of the kind of just, yeah, let me just check and see what's happening in this whole corner of fandom. And I don't know, I've been keeping up as much. Oh, whoa, is that Wiccan? Like, oh man, that's crazy. Like, that's not a bad thing to have for the MCU again. And, the more we get Aubrey Plaza in this, the more I'm happy. So yeah, I'm good with kind of like what's going on here. And like I said, I think it's the how. If we can pull off like, how is Billy there? And this was a twist episode for like what you think. We think it's just going to be like episodic, week to week, knock off a witch a week and then get to the end. But now it seems like he may even be an antagonist. We may have like kind of a surprise antagonist. I don't think any of us thought he was up to this level of power or things like that, where he just kind of quickly took them out real quick when things got flipped. So I'm kind of now really interested, and I want to see Wiccan and Aubrey Plaza go at it. That's going to be, when those scenes are going to be great. And like Wiccan, Agatha, and Aubrey Plaza alone is going to be fun to watch. So
I think
I'm good with it.
I think what I'm going to do is, once this all drops, I'm probably just going to binge it all together and kind of get a take on it and see how I feel about the show when I can actually watch it, like, binge, because it's just week to week. I just don't feel that I'm getting enough to carry me through to the next week to get me excited.
All right, Matt, how you doing?
So like, because I agree with you. The strongest thing about the show is the interactions between people. And so when we lose people, that actually makes the show worse for me, because you lose that interaction. So I really like that character. It's pretty known that someone dies. I'll leave the spoiler out for who, but like, seriously, like I like the dynamics, especially in this episode. You start to see other dynamics form, and then nope, we're not getting that because a character dies. And so this show has been exactly as I thought it would this entire time. We are losing people along the way, because it's about Agatha, Witch's Road. They teased that from the beginning, right? Like, hey, this is Agatha and Aubrey, like, there might be two people left at the end of this thing, right? And so far it's following that beat pretty closely. The Wiccan stuff, the how might be interesting, but that's not what they banked on. They banked on the who. They made it such a point early on and all the way up to here of, hey, you don't know who this person is. When the show leans into it, that means that's the track I'm supposed to follow. And so I was always like, oh, they pretty telegraphed this pretty hard. Like, you know who it is. And oh, shock, it's the most obvious, it's the most obvious answer. And there's no real, like, I don't care how. Like, I don't, that's not what the show has been leaning to this entire time. We'll see if it can pull a rabbit out of a hat. I don't know if it can. And especially not with 30-minute episodes. Like, with episodes that feel as short as this one, no, that's not going to happen. And it's going to hit the same rock that a lot of MCU shows struggle with, which is saving all of our big reveals for the final 2 episodes, or sometimes the final episode, and then giving us that big kind of battle ending. Do you really not see that happening here? If it doesn't, I will be supremely surprised.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a comic book show. Like, I mean, I don't
Well,
ever
that's not a
expect it-
comic book show because the Penguin exists.
Well, okay. We're gonna get into Penguin in a minute.
Yeah.
But that's completely different.
Different, yeah.
You know that's cooking on a completely different
Right,
level
but
than this.
you can't isolate them anymore, is my point. It can't be a comic book show is this when this other thing exists. And also other shows don't deal with this as much. The Boys is a comic book show.
You're right. Let me be more specific. I'm talking about MCU. It's an MCU project, period.
Absolutely.
Like,
I agree with you 100%.
there's a formula to the MCU. There always was. There always will be. We want it to break a little bit and be more dangerous, but I mean, we're only going to get so much of that. I think that, like I said, I think what's funny about this is that Agatha's getting Agatha'd. Like, this is, you know, to a certain extent, this is a repeat of what happened in the beats of WandaVision, right?
Yeah,
Where
for sure.
the person that was supposed to be helpful ally all along just turns out to be a villain. And I think it's just going to be interesting to see because, yeah, the mystery of who enchanted Teen and why can't he say his name? We thought it was like some other person, all these mysteries, but it's going to probably turn out to be Teen's really powerful and did it himself. He's Wiccan. And, you know, that's what it is. But again, it's about what has happened to this version of Billy that I do genuinely want to know. Like, why has he grown up this way? Like, why is he conniving? Like, what is the goal here? Why does he want to have Agatha on the Witch's Road doing all this? Like, what is the end point of all of this? Because, you know, there are still big theories. If we get a return of Scarlet Witch out of this, I'm good, man. I'm good. And this is as good as any way to do that. So we'll see. I don't know. I guess who knew I'd be the highest up on Agatha out of this crew? Wow. Man.
I like it. I just had really high expectations, you know.
I guess that's the difference. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I did. I had really high expectations. I really wanted it to kind of be like live in the same place as Moon Knight or Loki or something like that. I mean, obviously it's hard to be Loki because that's a character that we all love for such a long time, but something similar, something like that like the hype every week, I would just be so ecstatic to like tune in.
All right. Well, let's see. I think we should probably take a break. And when we come back, we got a couple more things to hit on the TV front, plus a bunch of geek news. I'm pretty sure Matt's frozen right now. So we're going to see if we can get him worked out.
Face to be frozen on.
Oh, there he is. Oh, he's back.
Oh,
All right. Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Matt's got something. He's excited. A new show he's very excited for. And we're going to check in with the Penguin plus some geek news. Don't miss any of it. Oh, also, there's a whole new Batman to talk about. We got a lot to do. We'll be back. Welcome back. Let's talk about something Matt's really excited about. A new series just hit Netflix featuring one of Matt's favorite characters. Who is that?
Tomb Raider, baby, Lara Croft. Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft hit Netflix yesterday. Actually, I've been very much looking forward to this adaptation. Number one, if you've had a conversation with me about video games Lara Croft is likely to have come up along with Witcher. Those two tend to come up a lot. And I really was excited about this series because one of the things it does, it links itself to the Survivor trilogy that I adore, which is kind of the most recent set of 3 games, Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and then Shadow of the Tomb Raider. If you have not played those games, I believe they're now I think even they're having a Tomb Raider sale right now that has a lot of games together for it. It was also an excellent remaster. So there's a lot of stuff there. And that trilogy did so much work with Laura and her origin. And this show is connected to that, right? It's canon. And so they found a spot kind of in the middle between, they want to show kind of how that Laura becomes and steps into the next era of Laura, which is like the original video games and like the Angelina Jolie movies and that kind of thing. How one version became the other and that transition, right? And so this is where this series sits. So number one, I love that it's connected and we're actually kind of evolving the character a bit and doing some, we're also able to therefore kind of retcon some things, tweak some things, timeline rise, right? We're able to kind of make some adjustments there. This series is doing some really great work. I'll only really touch on spoilers for the first episode because I know it just came out and this is Netflix. So the whole series is available to watch, all 8 episodes. I'd love to get into more spoiler stuff at a later time when everyone's watched it. But what they do a really good job of in the first episode is kind of setting up the main premise of kind of the adventure we're going on. They give you those classic like Tomb Raider, obviously all the Indiana Jones inspiration vibes. You get kind of that classic Tomb Raider looking for a relic adventure, and then that kind of bridges into the story. I will say, if you've played those games, you will, to me, have a better understand. Like, you'll have a better platform to stand on when jumping into the show because like characters from those games are heavily involved in this series. It also takes place a little bit after the 3rd game. Some stuff that happens later, like I had more of a reference point for things going into this. So I will say that. However, it's not like unfriendly to new viewers who didn't play those games. They do a good job of kind of catching you up on some things and leaving some mystery around it. I have to commend the voice cast because the two that really make this, Haley Atwell is Lara Croft, of course. She does a fantastic job in the role. And also my guy, Richard Armitage, who I will always love because of BBC's Robin Hood. That show was amazing. That show got slept on. Guy Gisborne is who he voiced. Here, he kind of voices the main villain. And oh my God, he brings so much to that part. Like, it's just great seeing those two actors like kind of battle. Like, if this were wrestling, it'd be battling on the mic, right? Like, it's just great to see that. So I'm really digging what they're doing here. I hope a lot of fans who maybe like haven't checked in on the Tomb Raider franchise jump into this because I think they'll find some really great stuff here. Kind of some very classic vibes for longtime fans. Did anyone else have a chance to check this out?
Yeah, I started it and I was very pleasantly surprised. First of all, the animation is really, really beautiful. Like she is gorgeous. And I thought it's very well done and it captured me. Like, I definitely want to continue watching it. So I think they've done a great job. You guys are really starting to get me into animation.
I started it. I started the first episode. I'm going to be the grenade this one. I didn't enjoy it.
Oh no.
I thought I'm the opposite. I thought the animation was kind of spotty. I think it's because like we've seen this recently, these types of shows. We saw it with Witcher. Netflix did that. There's one I can't even think of. I keep remembering, like half remembering. Skull Island. Skull Island. I finally remember that. We just did the Terminator one, and I think the Terminator one was from just the first episode because I've only gotten the first episode of this, so I'm going to keep going. But I think the Terminator one was a lot better than this for like a franchise to bring back an anime and kind of update. This is more of on the Skull Island thing, which is not like bad, but it's okay. I just think that for me, the issue is like, if you're going to, Tomb Raider is Lara Croft, and always the challenge, whether you're talking about gaming or in animation, is such a kinetic character. The movement that she does is so action packed that when you're doing animation of this, like it kind of stands out to me when you don't have the level of like fluid animation that you could get in other series. Like I need a Demon Slayer type deal for Lara Croft, because I mean, so much of it is her just being like grit and poetry, emotion, jumping, you know, flipping, doing all that. So I just thought that the visual representation wasn't as strong for me, but the mythology and the stuff like that in Lara Croft as a character is obviously always good, you know. So
Yeah, I kind of am in between a little bit because I agree. I think there's some scenes where and it's typically a lot of the scenes actually that's like it'll be like a moment of action, you know, like I feel like some of those smaller scenes aren't as smooth as they could be. And then you get, because then you can compare them to like at the end of this episode, or towards the end of this the first episode, there's a fight scene and she's like using like this kind of like rope with a like harpoon at the end of it, or like she's got a weapon that she's using, and I think the animation looks really good there. There's that whole scene, it's really fluid. She's throwing the blade around, it looks awesome. And if I were to compare that to like an earlier scene in the same episode where it's like a crocodile, and there's things there that like don't kind of match up, like it doesn't look the same level of smooth, it doesn't look the same level of polished. So I agree with you. I think in like some scenes, and as we move through the season, I think that actually is kind of accurate. Like you'll get some scenes that just look fantastic, and then you'll get some scenes that are like, I don't know if that was I ran out of time. Was that budget? I don't know. Is the time budget? Whatever.
Well,
like, hey, we gotta get this done, you know. So
listen, we'll go a little inside baseball, and I'll just say it's not as bad as Uzumaki on Max. If you haven't seen that, I mean, the internet blew up this week. Uzumaki, episode 1 to episode 2. If you've never in the history of animation do I think I've ever seen a bigger drop off in animation quality. Like, oh yeah, just look it up. Look up Uzumaki episode 1 and 2. Like on Twitter. Twitter has all the side by sides for you already mapped out. It is crazy. You know, like at the end of that Simpsons episode where Homer becomes Poochie and they do like the little animated when Poochie leaves the planet and he like flies away, that type of deal. Yeah, that's episode 2 compared to episode 1. It's pretty nuts.
Wow. Yeah, that is not here.
Yeah, we're not that bad. So let's just put this in scale for all my anime fans. We're not that bad, but yeah, I mean it's a perfectly serviceable. I'm like B movie, whatever the B movie equivalent of animation is, like series.
Yeah, I think Lara Croft fans will really enjoy, especially if you've played those games. I think you'll really. I really enjoy what they're doing here and how they're kind of growing the character. But I definitely want to revisit it once all the episodes we get through all the episodes and can really kind of dive into spoilers. But yeah, that's Tomb Raider.
All right. Like real quick, jump over to other TV stuff. I know because of the nature of us just doing this on Fridays now, we're not going to get too deep into Penguin, but Penguin's still cooking this week. That ending. Oh man, how quick we went from friends to foes in one episode, right? Like, yeah, Sophia's face when that whole thing happens, when Maroni comes out, was just, oh, like that's a part of this series that I love, is like whenever the mask drops on Oz and people, like, you know, like Matt pointed out in the beginning, like people know who he is and they call him out constantly. But when people truly see who he is, like it is nuts. It's great. And yeah, Penguin's still cooking. I'm loving this series. We had a theory that maybe I got a lot of questions on who those mushrooms came from and like how they fit into this, because it's an odd choice in drug. It's like, you know, that stands out to me. Like there's any number of Batman villains who could be in the background as in this world messing around with psychotropic mushrooms, stuff like that, from our poison ivies to our scarecrows. If you got something that can make blisk and you have something that makes fear, you know, all that type of deal. So I'm really kind of interested with what Penguin's doing, because we get in this main story and a self-contained, obviously, but like there are little sprinkles around the sides. And each week we're, finding clues to maybe another villain or another Batman character. This, there's a lot that could be going on here. So yeah, this is prestige level, and it is crazy. Just Kristen Miliotti's breaking out, and Sophia Falcone's just kind of breaking out as a star. Is pretty nuts. So we got a preview of episode 4 playing. This one's gonna be. We got Carmine Falcone, played by Mark Strong now. Big recasting. Mark Strong is the younger Carmine Falcone in this. And see, people thought I was crazy at the beginning, right? I went out on a limb and I told you guys multiple Emmys for this show. It's going down like already.
You're right.
Yeah, I was just trying to tell you guys. I try to keep it real. Yeah, this is what they're doing here. Farrell, Miliotti, and we got to see the whole series and we never dropped spoilers, but I will say tune in for episode 4. Okay, we'll talk next week, but tune in for episode 4. Be sure to be there. Because if they don't got Emmys locked yet after this episode, we going for those Emmys, baby. So, Penguin, keep it locked. Matt Reeves, this Batman universe, cooking. Who knew? Any thoughts, guys? Janelle?
Dude, it's just really, really good. And this is the show that I look forward to all week. And it feels so good to have a replacement for House of the Dragon. It just kind of slid right into that spot for me. And I am loving it.
Yeah. Shout out to the new execs over at HBO. Whoever, I forget, we did the articles. I forget, Chris Bloys, maybe. Whoever it is out there, shout out, because you guys are doing a bang up job. You came in and were like, no. Forget all this streaming crap. We going back to HBO Sunday nights, baby. It is a staple. Like, we need our HBO Sunday night prestige watch. Like, that's like the last of appointment TV viewing we have. That's like the last vestige of our old world ways of have appointment TV. Mm-hmm. But Penguin's cooking. I checked out the first episodes of Teacup on Peacock. Anybody else check that out? The James Wan series? No. It's weird, bro. It's all right. Slow start.
Slow weird.
Start. It's no Penguin, but it's no Penguin. But I'm kind of interested. It is getting a little spooky. I'm going to be checking it out a little bit more, because Peacock has quietly been cooking on some things. You can't discount Peacock content, so you gotta give it a thing. But it's a slow start. There's a lot of people in it there, but Scott Speedman.
I am going to catch up for next time though, because I am curious about it, so I will have it watched.
Same.
So. Yeah, it started to get spooky at the end, but it's a little slow start. They're setting up characters and relationships. I'm in episode 2 where things are starting to get really drastic and something's starting to really happen. So, so episode 1's a slow burn. But all right, that's it on the TV side. Let's get into some. You guys let's jump to Batman while we have Janelle still here. Can we jump? We're gonna flip a couple things around. We're gonna jump to Absolute Batman first, and then we'll do news at the end and just kind of chat about the news loose. So this week we got Matt. We got the arrival. Matt's been waiting to get into this. Go ahead, man.
Absolute Batman, baby.
Yeah.
The DC Absolute Universe is here. And we got the first one. We've obviously talked about Superman, Wonder Woman coming up, but it starts with Scott Snyder and Nick Dragata's Absolute Batman #1. We are going to be getting into spoilers. So FYI, if you haven't read this issue yet, you absolutely should. But we are going to get into that stuff here, because you can't not talk about that stuff. We'll actually have it'll be live on the site at some point this weekend, actually, of just covering all of the changes and tweaks and differences between the mainline universe and this absolute version of Batman, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of things, but I'm curious. Just as just kind of tackling before we even get into all of that, just tackling as a story. What did you guys, think about this? We've heard a lot about this kind of big in stature mammoth Batman. The suit obviously is eye-catching, but we really see it all come together with a very different look at like how this Bruce Wayne grew up and what ultimately drove him to becoming Batman, what his current life now is as Batman, there's a lot of changes there, especially as far as like his primary, there's always been this thing about, regardless of whatever changes in Batman's world and Bruce Wayne's world, Alfred's there. And this is a very different take on that relationship and that dynamic and Alfred in general. In fact, this is like kind of 25% an Alfred book, which is awesome. So that's not said in any kind of negative way either. So what did you guys think of just this take on Batman and what stood out to you most?
Janelle, would you like to go first? Janelle?
You go ahead, because I'm confused.
It was very much, to me, it was very reminiscent of what we've been experiencing with Absolute. I wanted to say Ultimate Spider-Man this year in the relaunch of Ultimate Spider-Man, wherein it's very much a very remixed version of the core mythology, but still retains a lot of the core characteristics of the characters, but in very different arrangement from what we're used to in the main canon universe. So like Peter Parker has a family, he's a dad. Uncle Ben is still alive and works with J. Jonah Jameson at the Daily Bugle. Same kind of deal in this. It's like Snyder has tweaked a lot of the things that we know, like Alfred's, service in the military. Well, what if Alfred went a different way and didn't, come in the service of the Wayne family in the same way and was still just a military expert dude, like, that kind of stuff. And the main inciting trauma I was most surprised by what is revealed to be the inciting trauma of what causes Bruce to become Batman in the first place, and the depiction of his father in this. And I was really surprised they went that route. Like, that's a hot button route to go. Like, and doing that was like, oh, wow. Like, but it also, he's already created, I'm trying to do this without too many spoilers. We said we're going to spoilers. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, yeah. So by making it a school shooting and making Thomas Wayne a school teacher who protected these students and paid for it with his life, like, it already sets up this completely different but fascinating psychology for who Bruce is as Batman and what he's trying to do and why he feels he needs to, like, protect people, do this kind of thing, and what it did for him, and who it is very subtly and subtextually about him as a character now, that Thomas was a man of learning. He wasn't a doctor. He was a teacher. So Bruce spent a lot of his time, you see in this, learning, like, is a big thing. You begin to see all these shades of his character change. So, like, yeah, he spends a lot of time before becoming Batman learning everything about Gotham, every level of it, city engineering, this, that, and the other. It's not just like how to fight crime, right? It's this wholly different kind of Batman who is literally building the city as he's trying to, like, take down these other elements. And it's kind of a weirdly updated kind of take, because that's what people have been saying about Batman lately. It's the thing in, like, Ultimate Spider-Man, it's the thing that more adult fans have been saying as we grow up. As as you get older, you're like, why is this dude just running around beating people up? Like, you're a billionaire. Like, you could do all these things with your money. Like, that's crazy. And now we're getting that, right? And so it's very interesting, and I liked it, but I also liked it that we kept it simple, and we got a comic book of Batman beating a lot of ass and just showing why, like, how formidable he is and like what's different about this Batman and what lengths he's willing to go to, but still Batman, right? Like, still precise like a ninja or an engineer, but willing to be brutal and more the mix of things we're getting in this Batman. There's definitely the Frank Miller Bruiser Batman, kind of like, I'm a surgeon, I'm going to crack this guy's arm open in front of everybody, not to hurt him and be sadistic, but to show these others, like, if I break this guy's arm, I'm saving myself 10 fights by the 10 who get scared and run away. Yeah, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So well done. I'm intrigued.
So Janelle, you said you were confused. You seemed more mixed.
Yeah, well, just because, like, obviously his whole entire backstory is completely different than what, the Batman that I was raised on and know everything about. So that's just a mind swirl. I don't know if we're cursing on
PG. That's a good way to PG that.
PG version.
Mind Squirrel. I like Mind Swirl. Mind Screw
It
is
was a
also
mind
acceptable.
swirl. So just getting used to that and getting comfortable with it was one thing, but I thought it was spectacular. Like it was just so cool. This villain who I don't know much about, and this like entire gang is frightening to me. Like very, very, very intense and scary. And what they're doing just for the heck of it to like just torture and kill people is awful. And I'm so curious. Like I need to know what's happening. Obviously, like something with those masks or like headpieces are hopefully like brainwashing these people to do these things. That's what I'm assuming. But I think it's really quite thrilling. Like it's seeing the action. At first I really thought I was going to be all about Alfred and like, oh wow, what's going on here? But man, Batman in this is killer. Like he's really exciting. So I actually like this backstory even better than I do love the humble beginnings sort of background. I love, he had a scholarship in college, but then like purposely got injured. That is such a cool take, just so he could study like tons of different things and expand his mind. Like it's really neat. Like it's definitely a hot take. I'm about it.
Yeah, it's kind of what Kofi mentioned about like reworking all of these things, right? Because if you look around at all the various characters and things, most of the cornerstones of Batman are still here. They're just with different people, right? We get into the Joker thing. There's where your money is, right? There's where your billionaire, 31 of the 30 richest people in the world. That's going to be how we view the money and wealth of the city and how that affects you and stuff. We're going to view it through that angle. It's still there. It's just through a different person, right? Same way with like Bruce's relationship with the friends he grew up with. They're all the villains we've all known to become, Riddler and Penguin and Croc and Catwoman. Like, but it's a way different dynamic. So yes, they're there. They're not those people yet, even though Croc still wants to open a whole like crocodile. That made me laugh. That was great. Waylon's amazing. I hope we get to see more of him in this book. But like, they grew up together. This is their home. And so Bruce is kind of, they have a regular poker night that he hasn't gone to. So like that, all of that stuff is still intact. The Alfred dynamic is there. It's just, it's a much different thing. So yeah, I think they've done such a great job with reworking the mythos, modernizing it, because unfortunately, like in the place and time we live, this is a story that we've seen play out, like the beginnings of that thing, right? We've had to be, that's a thing that happens now, and it's awful, but it's something that would unfortunately be something we'd see in the news. So like that, again, it's jarring and it's awful, but it also makes sense within the context of doing a story in the here and now. And I will say, like, Nick Dragata's artwork is just, amazing throughout. I mean, I just think it conveys everything about this Batman and this Gotham so incredibly well throughout the entire issue. And there's tons of threads here. I mean, this is like a 40-page book or a little bit more than that. And it blew by. I was like, yeah. And there's even an epilogue that sets other things up. It did a really great job. And so I am excited for what's to come from this. But again, we also have two more of the rest of the Trinity to finish off here. We have Wonder Woman coming. We have Superman coming. All of the teams here are on these books for a year plus. So they're just, they're on here for the long haul, and they're going to be doing some big things. So I'm excited for this.
Janelle, what you think about this new Joker?
Intrigued. I am curious to see where, like, obviously we just got a tiny little taste So
yeah,
not,
but
not a lot of
we already
context.
know he's like it's weird. He's like a twisted Bruce Wayne, right? Like he's
Yeah.
studied all the stuff Bruce Wayne in the main continuity studied, and he's like a rich dude. So but he never laughs. So I'm really kind of interested to see where this goes, man.
Yeah, that's like a massive departure. So
Shout out to Damon Gray. I mean, Big
Yeah.
Boy Bruce would be a good little nickname for this absolute Batman. Yeah,
ooh.
so yeah, but it is already a whole ass world, and I'm already in it, man. Like I was just rereading, I was just scrolling back through the book, and it's like, yeah, I'm already, there's so much they set up already in this subtly, like by just kind of tossing you in, and this whole kind of Alfred as the pivotal Nick Fury piece of this, I kind of really dig. It's the most interested I've been in Alfred since that Pennyworth show. Hey, Pennyworth!
Hey.
Didn't know you were getting a shout out to Pennyworth on this show. Did you?
That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with you. There's stuff
unexpected.
that slips by the radar too. Like it was my second read before I really processed that like Barbara is the one that picks up, Commissioner Gordon, and like, oh, she's a cop. She's in the like police force, and like that whole dynamic changes because like she's working for her dad and all that. Like there's all these little touches throughout the whole book that some of them I didn't catch the first time around.
No,
So,
you got to read it
there's
a couple
lot
times.
of seeds. Yeah, there's a lot of seeds planted here, and that's awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot. And like I said, I didn't get, like, I was so just kind of rolling through the mystery of who this is and like what everything is the first time that like it took me 2 reads just to get the subtlety of like Bruce's psychology, the flashback of what happened to his dad and all. And then what he says, like, to the cops, like, whatever you hear, don't come through this door, like all this stuff and like what that line means to him, like everything is just, it's crazy. So like, yeah, it's a good issue, and like still very much Gotham, still very much Batman, but like I said, in a lot of shades of different kinds of Batman influences in it. So Absolute Batman, I'm absolutely loving it. Anyway, it's early in the morning, so like, all right, let's just talk about a little geek news before we get out of here. First up, I think we all got the Green Lantern we secretly really wanted. Aaron Pierre, the star of Rebel Ridge, that hit breakout movie on Netflix, is going to be our Green Lantern in Lanterns opposite Kyle Chandler. And I like that pairing. This is a good pairing. Aaron Pierre and Kyle Chandler as 2 Green Lanterns working together who may also butt heads at times seems like really good in me. And then throw in Nathan Fillion in the middle of that, like as the 2 of them. Can you imagine the 2 of them being so serious in this thing, and then Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner showing up, and it's like everything
with the bowl cut.
Yeah, with the bowl cut, like it's everything you want. All we need now is a Matt Bomer as Alan Scott, and like we're really cooking. We're off and cooking, right? That's the last thing we need. But yeah, and people are people out here really. I've been on vacation this week, so like I haven't been dipping into the internet. Are people really saying Aaron Pierre's not black enough to play? Oh my god, we were gonna cast Common.
My god,
Common is not dark skin. Like, we don't need to get into this whole thing. We're not gonna do this. We're especially not doing this on this platform in front of all these other. But like, stop. Like, stop.
Yeah. Damon has sums it up perfectly. Twitter is being Twitter.
Oh my god.
I will say there's a pivoting us to a lighter part of this, though. I'm very excited.
No pun intended.
You brought You brought up the how like that's going to be such a great trio of characters to work with and actors. And I recently did up a 7 other lantern or characters that we want to see from that mythology in Lanterns. And I gotta say, this dynamic would be amazing if we had also a Joe Moline, if you've read Far Sector, who is like the detective of the Green Lantern Corps. So like if she's like the Batman of the Green Lantern Corps, be amazing to have that in the mix as well. And then you have this kind of crew of 4 that is able to play off of each other, and that would be fantastic. So I'm just,
hey man, Cynthia Erivo got time before Wicked Part 2, because we can try to get her in there. Yeah, I still want my Dylan O'Brien coming in as poor Kyle Rayner, just trying to be an artist,
Kyle.
Yeah, something like that. He'd be good as like a little punky Kyle, kind of going along with these guys. But look, man, I'm not getting into Aaron Pierre is fantastic. He's fantastic in Rebel Ridge. He was fantastic in Krypton, where I mean, he was plenty black for me in that. You know, with my girl Georgina Campbell from Barbarian, they were excellent in that series. Both of them, Krypton. Go back and watch that if you haven't. Great show. But yeah, he is formidable when he's doing kind of action stuff. Like, he's going to be great, and he has gravitas. Like, the guy can act. Like, he's going to be great as John Stewart. The military stuff, if they do the whole disaster that John had in his past and all of that. And like I said, the on-screen chemistry between him and Kyle Chandler is what I could see being really good. So yeah, we need that. I'm here for it. Matt, I know you're excited about this next one. Something going down with your favorite actor, Henry Cavill.
Man, boy, I am so curious what his resume is going to look like at the end of his career, because I feel like he's going to have been in every single major fan favorite franchise. I mean, he is just collecting them like Infinity Stones. Henry Cavill has been cast in the live action Voltron movie that's hitting. No character names attached or anything. There's only actually been one other casting. Daniel Quinn Toye, I hope I'm saying that correctly, was actually cast the day before in one of the lead roles, and now Cavill joins that growing cast. But this is a kind of a hot project. We're probably going to see a lot more announcements over the next few weeks. And while there is no character attached, just looking at the crew of the main characters and them all being a little bit younger, and the other characters, it's kind of like, while he could be playing maybe an aged up character, or maybe one in particular character, Shiro, could be aged up a little bit, it's more likely that he's playing a villain. And if that's the case, that's super interesting, because if it plays Zarkon, like, oh my God, that could be amazing. Like, we haven't actually had a chance to really see Cavill in that kind of role very much. He often plays a hero or an ally of the heroes or whatever. So that would be fun. I'm all in on that. But seriously, at this point, it's Witcher, DC, Superman. He's working on Highlander. He's working in Warhammer. He was in Wolverine and Deadpool. It's a Marvel, and now he's jumping into Voltron. Like, that's crazy. That's a lot of big franchises that he's already got under his belt. So it's kind of amazing now.
All he needs to do now is like a Tropic Thunder, like adult comedy where he's unhinged doing something crazy. Like, that'd be great. I would love to see Henry Cavill doing that. I'm so super curious if we could dust off Voltron as a live action kind of like. I love Voltron, but I'm so super curious about this. If we can do this, we'll see. What else is going on? Ooh, big story on our site this week is that the Batman 1989 universe is continuing. Matt, you want to get into that a little bit?
Oh yeah, Batman Resurrection is going to continue, which this is interesting, because when I first read this, I was like, well, there already is a sequel to that.
Yeah.
It's called Batman Returns. I was like, why are we doing it? But this makes sense, because it's actually a direct novel sequel to, like, directly affecting the events of the first film, and if Returns hadn't happened yet, essentially. And we are dealing with Joker. So this first book is going to be coming out, wow, is it this October 15th? Holy cow, that's like right around the corner. That's amazing. By Random House Worlds, dealing with the fallout from Joker's death and kind of jumping into all that and returning to all those characters. This sounds exciting. I mean, I haven't had the chance to read it yet. Obviously, I'm hoping to, maybe soon. But yeah, the Joker is dead, but not forgotten is essentially like one of its key taglines. So I'm very curious to see what they can do, because I mean, it doesn't really get more iconic than Jack Nicholson's Joker. I mean, it's not my favorite Joker interpretation, just because Heath Ledger's Joker exists, but that's in no way diminishing what Nicholson did, because that's such a iconic performance as Joker. So any kind of chance to to explore that and see what happens there, someone has kind of the time is cool. I'm definitely in.
Yeah, it's by John Jackson Miller, and it's part of a duology. We're getting 2 books. So that is, and we have an exclusive excerpt on comicbook.com right now, and you can check that out. So do that because, Batman 1989 fans. Before we get out of here, Matt, you want to talk about any Venom hosting?
I don't know anything about the new Venom host, so all
right, well, good. Neither do I. Good. We can skip that. We'll get back to you on that. All right, I think we did. I think we did it. Wow, look at us in record time. We have done it today. Anybody got anything else they want to just throw out there randomly as stuff? Anybody? You want to tell anybody anything about anything?
Just shout out to Superman and Lois final season. I think the new episode just came out, and I've heard really great things about it. So.
You should totally. I loved it. Okay, here's the thing. Well, I'm heartbroken about several things about the Arrowverse. And like saying goodbye to certain shows and things. Legends of Tomorrow is one of my favorite all-time comic shows, period. But Superman and Lois does not get enough love. That show is excellent.
I've heard that a lot. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's so good. And if it had occurred at a different time in the in the layout of the Arrowverse, when it was
in the middle, when it was
while we were all yelling about Snyder cuts, should have been
it would be number one, it'd still be around. I think it would be one of the final ones of that era. And then also it's just they do such a good job of exploring the kids and the being a parent and also being a superhero and the stuff between him and Lois and the powers. It looks great too. They do a lot with on a TV budget. They do a lot. They make it feel like Superman. So I mean, that show does not get enough love. And
anybody gonna ever save it, or you think they're just gonna roll it up because of the new DCU?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's done.
It's the last one, right? I mean, it's literally the last. It's the last part of that era, and I think I love that they actually gave them a chance to end it, so it actually gets an ending and stuff, and that's why they're doing Doomsday this season, right, and all that. I don't think it lasts beyond this, but not because of the quality of the show, just because.
Enjoy your time in the grave alongside Krypton. Finally, I want to say, Stephen Prime. I've heard you this entire show, Stephen Prime. I do have Dan to Dan. It is queued up in my thing. It is ready to go. It is ready to press play. I was just trying to get through some Dragon Ball stuff today because we have a lot of Dragon Ball coverage we got to do on the site, and I've been off all week. But, buddy, come on now. Who do you think I am? Dan to Dan is up in my queue right now. We're going to press play as soon as I get done this work stuff today. So, Stephen Prime, good job. Thank you for your dedication today on the live chat. But, yeah. I'm up on that Dan to Dan. I'm going to be pressing play. Don't you worry. And thank you guys, everybody in the live show chat, for keeping us up to date on all the things that you guys are seeing and sharing recommendations. We appreciate you guys every week. And you guys keep us honest because we do. We are the show that covers all things geek culture, and boy, does it get tricky sometimes. So that's our show for this week. I want to thank Evan Valentine for hopping on and doing the Terrifier 3 breakdown, which got so much deeper than I thought it would. Oh my God. We did a whole paid promo for Terrifier there, which was interesting. Check out some good TV this week. Go check out Absolute Batman. Yes, and people asking, it is a new Batman origin in a different universe, a universe created by Darkseid. So this is Darkseid's universe. Never forget that. That is a big overarching thing that's going on. So lots to check out on the TV screen, some good stuff to check out in theaters, some good stuff to read in the comic book page. And as always, we have not just comic book, but the new comicbook.com that is now live. Our site is officially been updated for the new era. It looks different. It moves faster. Things are looking great. It seems to be going well. We're writing some great pieces. The comic book staff is just cooking on ideas and interesting things, interesting breakdowns. Matt is a one-man Absolute Batman breakdown machine over here. So go check out all of the articles about Absolute Batman that we have out there, all the interesting things. I think I just found do we even do the Joker Easter egg in there? Because there's a Joker Easter egg in there. like a Joker movie Easter egg, and we got to get into that. So we got stuff to do.
Oh, boy.
No, we got to do that. So we got stuff to write. We're going to get out of here. Go check out comicbook.com and be with us next week when we sum up the next week in Geek here on Comic Book Nation. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Janelle. Thank you to the live chat. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Bye.
This is-
NYCC.